Welcome to the Coffee with Closer show, where we interview real investors that are doing real deals in this current market about how they are finding, funding, and flipping the deals. We talk about what they are doing that is working and the things they did that didn't work so that you can save time and money as you become a real investor. Welcome to the Coffee with Closer show. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Coffee with Closer show where we talk with real investors doing real deals in the real market that we're in right now, even this crazy market that we're in. Yes, deals are getting done. Hey, do me a quick favor, hit that subscribe button, ring that little bell so that you know every time we put out another Coffee with Closer show, you can be notified and you can keep up to date with what's going on with real investors in this real market. And so the good news is I got somebody on the line today that you guys can see. Mr. Bill, you're with us, aren't you?
I'm here, Zack. How's it going, my brother?
Man, I'm good. And so I've known Bill now for 6 years, 7 years, something like that?
Well, I didn't realize it'd been that long. I don't think it's been quite that long, but it seems like it because I've learned a lot from you, Zack. So I've learned 6 years worth of stuff in, let's say, 3.5. How about that?
It's definitely been longer than 3.5.
Okay. All right. 4. We'll call it 4.
So let's look at this. I've been in my current house for 4 years, and I knew you when I lived in my old house, which was over 2 years past that. It's got to be pushing 6 years, Bill.
Okay. All right. You're probably, I don't know, but time flies, time flies. So.
That was like, I had Steve on here and Steve's like, yeah, I think I've known you like 7 years. I'm like, Steve, I've owned the RIA for almost 11. I met you when I got the RIA.
Well, Steve, God love him. Steve's what, 80? No, I'm kidding.
Man.
Steve's awesome.
So you're out there just still plugging away, right, man?
I am. Just, doing what I do, which is I still wholesale. I do flips. I've got a few buy and holds. Let's take a moment because, obviously everybody don't know you like I know you.
Sure. So let's take a moment and just say, what was it that made Bill get into real estate? Like, how far back was that? Did you read a book, go to a seminar? Did your uncle, aunt, cousin say you got to be in real estate? What was that?
Really, I won't say any of the above, but actually, this is something I really wanted to do probably start. I wanted to start 30 years ago, and just for whatever reason, life and children and things get in the way, and you got to have a passion to do it. But even, I guess, I'll go back almost 20 years. I know the name Carlton Cheats, who anybody bought a couple of his horses, and
bless him, he's gone now.
Yeah, and really just never got out of the gate with it. I went through the some of the intro stuff, but never really got out of the gate. And then I was prior to doing this, 8 years prior to getting into real estate, I was selling medical software. And, the government got involved with that heavily in healthcare. And basically they were dictating what we could sell our software for, which, as a salesperson with them, and the government starts telling you what you can sell your system for. Well, now they're telling me how much I can make on commission, because obviously it got real convoluted about the whole system. So I bailed on that and left that company and started, joined, went to a 3-day Fortune Builders event like a lot of people do. And, but instead of not, going in, I went in, paid a significant amount of money to get started. But, I've made it back many times over. It's the best decision I've ever made. And then
just to touch on that, best decision you ever made was investing in your education.
Absolutely, man. Still do. Like a lot of people do. I still, I get on webinars and, I've joined, of course, the RIA, your RIA, Madison RIA, and I've learned a lot from you and the RIA, the speakers, the education, and I've gone to probably, I don't know, I'd say overall a couple of dozen live, seminars over the last several years. And, you learn a lot. You learn a lot. You network with a lot of people that are a lot smarter than you and have been doing it a lot smarter than you. And if you want to learn how to do something better, find the people that really have done it a lot better than most other people and learn from them.
True. I love that statement. And I say that all the time too. Like, you'll only go as far as you know. If you want to go further, find someone who's been there and knows it. So
absolutely.
So 20, 30 years ago, you got the idea, but you didn't act.
Right.
Then obviously your current state, your current position, your employment was getting affected like a lot of people right now. But this was different.
Sure.
And it made you realize, hey, I need to start really figuring out what I'm going to do. And so that led you down to taking action, more or less.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so then you started taking action. You got in, you started studying, you got educated. What was the very first deal you ever did? Just tell me that.
That was the first deal I ever did was a house here locally in Huntsville. And it was, I'd probably up to the first deal I had looked at 40, 50 properties, at least that many, either online or in person. And it was a little 3-2 60s built house over on Calvert Drive, and vacant house. An older gentleman had owned that house for many years, and it was been sitting vacant for 6 or 7 years. And I'll never forget how it went down. And when I drove up to the house and met the man, I knew this was going to be the house. I knew this was going to be my first deal. I just felt it. And we looked at the house, and older gentleman, but we hit it off very well. And I sent it. He said, I said, well, I'm not going to give you an offer tonight. Let me send you the offer tomorrow. And the man's 81 years old, and he says, well, text it to me, which was kind of a surprise. Most people don't text at 81, but I did. I texted him the next day with a quote, $22,550. I remember the exact amount I quoted him.
$22,550.
$22,550. And don't really know how I came up with that number, other than, I did a really thorough, I stayed up all night doing an evaluation on that house. I was up till, I don't even think I went to sleep because I was so excited about it. Sent the offer via text, didn't hear a word all day. And then about 4 or 5 that evening, he replied, send me a contract. That was when, and
that was your first deal, man. So yep. I like what you said. You looked at 40 or 50 before you found your first one. And I think that's a big point to make to people that's watching this. Because, we get people who watch this that are brand new, some that are seasoned. But you made a good point there that you don't give up after 15, 20 people say no or the numbers don't work out. It's a numbers game. You stay in, you keep grinding, you keep plugging in, you keep looking, because that one deal obviously sparked the fire to show you, hey, look, this is possible. And if I can compound this, I can get to doing 2, 3, 4, 5 of these a month as I keep moving down this pipeline.
Absolutely.
But one thing I want to point out about you, Bill, that I think everybody should understand, because you did say earlier, you wholesale and you rehab, but you wholesale much different than a lot of the new investors that try to wholesale, or just some of the seasoned investors that try to wholesale. Like you go a little bit further than most people. I mean, you do a lot of research. You identify like if there's other issues with the property. I mean, I've even had you come to me and say, look, I found this in a flood zone, or hey, this has liens on it, or this one's going to foreclosure. Here's the auction date. Like, you're not just saying, hey, here's a contract, buy it. You're saying, hey, look, I want long-term business with you. Here's a contract, and here's everything I know about it.
Absolutely. And that was taught by, I learned that through the education, because if you're going to wholesale and you're going to be a good wholesaler, first of all, know what the value of the property is. That, and so many wholesalers, as they don't really understand what the ARV is, and they don't really understand what's going on with the house. And get as much history as you can on the house. Find out, if there's liens on it, if there's tax liens or other things going on with it that need to be addressed at closing. And most of the houses I buy or wholesale, I get inspections on. People go, why do you get an inspection on a property?
I know that you're right. You do. And people even come to me and say that. They say, why does Bill inspect them?
And the reason I do that is because just about every time, and I don't inspect every single house. I inspect the most of those houses, because I want the buyer to know what's wrong with it. And I don't hide anything. If there's problems under that house, and secondarily, most importantly, if there is a big problem under the house or under the roof or big issues, I can go back to the seller with a report to say, it's not my opinion, this is what was found. And so we need to renegotiate this price on this house. So if I'm offering $35,000 on the house and we find an additional $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 worth of repair that's going to be needed, we've got to negotiate that with the seller. So it puts me in a better position with the seller to negotiate, and also with the buyer to buy, because now there's no guesswork for the buyer. I've done a lot of the work for them, and I could get a bigger wholesale price for it.
And for the people watching this that are brand new, they're probably already leaning back in their chair going, oh, I can't go out and order an inspection on every property I look at. To be clear, that's not what you're doing. You're looking at a deal. You know it's a deal. The numbers are right. You know that you could wholesale it. Then you're like, I'm going to get an inspection on this.
Well, but I will have it under contract first.
That's my point. Like, yes, it's not like you're just looking at every single house and inspecting every single house.
Of course not. No, you would be you can't do that.
I just want to clarify that for people, because you know how some people's minds go. Oh, I can't do that. So you're inspecting the ones that you already know are a good deal, and the likelihood you're going to get a buyer is pretty high, and you have it under contract.
Right. And here's the other thing. I may want to keep it for myself. So If it's really, if I get it at a really good discount and the inspection comes back really clean, I'll just go ahead and buy it, keep it, and flip it or keep it as a rental. And whatever.
Another thing that you're doing right now, well, it's not new. You started doing this maybe a couple of years ago, but you started expanding your market share. You're not just wholesaling in your city. You started branching out. You went down into Birmingham. You started going Montgomery. You started moving and growing your market share so that you could get to doing more volume. And, a lot of people get hesitant about that. And I've been talking, virtual and market share for years. And it seems like now that we're in this current situation, people are starting to take that a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're saturated. And I've gone, bought from, North Alabama to Tennessee, all the way down to Mobile, and pretty much, I won't say all over the entire state, but I have branched out. I haven't bought one out of state yet, but I've looked at quite a few out of state, but I've not actually.
So what's the one piece of advice for somebody, and then we're going to dig into your deal. What's the one piece of advice you could give somebody that may be in a situation where they want to branch off into other markets, and they have, everybody always says there's one concern they have, and that is they're not there. They can't see it. How do you overcome that? I mean, obviously you're not driving down to Mobile to go look at a house and drive back. So what are some of the things you're doing on the front end to prepare or build your partnerships down there to be able to do that?
Well, I'll use Mobile for an example. And in the case where I did the wholesale in Mobile, I already had some friends that lived there. And he had introduced me to another gentleman that does flips, and he was did insurance adjustment. He did insurance repair adjustment. I mean, you get your roof needs to be redone. He would go for the insurance company and give the estimates. And so he introduced me to this gentleman, and so I had him go look at the property and do all the pictures. So I knew, and he did a pretty good, very a detailed repair estimate, and I just had to pay him a couple $100 to do that. Took all the pictures, and that's 2 days. I mean, from here to Mobile is a long way. So you're going to drive a day,
6 hours.
So you're going to be you're going to take 2 days out of your day to go look at a property just to get pictures. And so and in other areas, I've actually I go out and I find home inspectors that maybe their business, and I want to find the ones that maybe are not doing too well, but still,
good job.
Maybe they've been hurt, by the economy or whatever. And I'll say, look, I really need you to go look at this property, but I don't need you to do a full 27-page inspection. Just tell me about the water heater, the air conditioner, the main components, get some photographs, and let's negotiate what, it'll take you an hour, okay? Maybe at the most, as long as you don't have to drive very far. And so that's a good
I love
avenue.
that. That's a little golden nugget there. So if you don't know somebody already with boots on the ground, you're looking for inspectors that you can build a relationship with that you're not doing full blown inspections. And
Absolutely.
And whatever you pay them is cheaper than splitting the deal with them anyways. So
Absolutely.
I love that.
And it's my time. I don't have to drive,
That's great, man. I love that. That's actually a really good golden nugget there for everybody.
And you're getting someone that's qualified about looking at a property. So
True.
it's and if the property's occupied and they're a licensed inspector, they don't have a problem getting in the property. So
True. Have you ever looked at the company called We Go Look?
I have looked at it, and I've known, that's where I learned from you about We Go Look, and I think I talked to Heather about this. There was when we went to sign up, they wanted us to, when I talked to them, they wanted us to become one of the We Go Look people for them, I think. So I don't know that. I never did really pursue that, but I need to. I should. Yeah. I should pursue that.
Yeah, I mean, they do everything. They look at boats and cars, and I mean, they look at everything. So okay. I was just curious if it was something that you had looked at. But I like what you're doing. I think what you're doing is a much better fit than using a We Go Look, because like you said, they're licensed. They know what they're doing. They know what they're looking for. I mean, that is much, much, much better. So, all right, Bill. Well, listen, I want to talk to you about your deal and get into some of your marketing and talk about what you did right, what you did wrong. So is this the deal behind you that we're going to be talking about?
Yes, it is.
Is that a yellow tag on the front door?
Yeah, that's not a condemned. That's the building permit that didn't get taken down. So sorry, I would zoom in on it. No, it's not a condemned sign. It kind of looks like one. That's what they put.
I was about to say, what did they do? Shut it down on you, man? No, so let's let everybody understand. So this is not a wholesale deal you did. This is a deal you found. You went ahead and bought this one to fix it up and resell it.
Yes, I did. This was purchased in October of last year, about mid-October. Okay. It should have been done sooner, and we'll go into that in a minute. But it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch property. It's it's a really nice house. It was built in 69 or 70. 1,750 square feet or so. I bought it for $70,000. Which is a really good price for this neighborhood. We found it. I say we because you remember I've talked about him before, and he's come to several of the meetings, and I think he was part of did some of the training and stuff with you, and that's Peter. And I partnered with him on certain deals, and he actually had. He had hired a VA to do some phone calls, and they came across this house. And Peter.
So let's slow down for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, all right. So you had teamed up with Peter, and Peter had a VA. So when you said that he found it, so was Peter like providing a list that had been skip traced with phone numbers to the VA? That is correct.
Yes.
Okay. And the VA was doing outbound calls, just trying to find somebody that wanted to
Absolutely.
sell. Okay. Gotcha.
And then the VA had found this property, found the seller, and the gentleman that owned it lived in Florida. Was retired, long since retired, and hadn't lived in the house in years, but it had rented it to family, and they had messed it up pretty good, but it wasn't awful. And so I took the call and called the gentleman, and we negotiated the sale. And he actually he drove up from, I don't know why he didn't have a key, but he drove up from Florida to show it. And I made him an offer, and it was accepted pretty quickly. And that was we started work on it very.
So let's talk about that. So from the time the VA found the lead until you closed, what was that time frame like?
That was pretty quick. I would say it was probably a little less than 30 days from the time that I made the offer, he accepted the offer, and I closed. It was about...
No, not that part.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm saying from the time that the VA found the lead and then you presented your offer. What was that window like?
That was I would say, let me think, because I talked to him in Florida. It was maybe 7 to 10 days tops.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 7 to 10 days from acquiring the lead to a conversion of contract.
Correct. So it was under contract within 10 days of me talking to the seller.
So then you have it under contract. Now,
Right.
Are you at a point in where you're saying, should I wholesale this or should I rehab this? Were you at that, or did you go into it saying, look, I'm going to go ahead and rehab this?
I initially had some interest in some people buying it, and I considered wholesaling it. And I had it out there for about a week or so as a wholesale property, and I just didn't feel like I was getting what it was worth. And so I made the decision, did some more numbers, and said, hey, we'll just rehab it. So that's what I did. And
so when you made the decision to rehab it, did you go to a traditional lender? Did you go to a private lender, a hard money lender? How did you secure the funds on it?
Like a lot of my deals, I use, and you know him, Russ at Magnolia.
Yeah, so he's more of like an asset lender. Yeah,
and so he did the loan for me, and I did 100% loan for purchase and rehab through his company, and so it's gone very well. I mean, and I do most of the rehabs I do are private lending. Done by private.
Yeah, I know you use him. You don't like using me. I'm too expensive.
Well, I mean, everybody's expensive, Everybody's expensive.
I'm just messing with you.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with making good money doing this. When I get to where I've got, several 8, 9, 10 million sitting around. No, not that much. You don't need that much, but that's definitely an area that I want to start exploring more, is doing some private.
Oh no, man, it's so much easier.
Absolutely. You just have to make sure you're locked down and secured and all that good stuff.
Then you don't have to go out and compete with all you guys trying to find the deals.
That's right.
You just get to sit back and let them bring the deals to you.
Yeah, you get 10 or 12 of those going, and turn them over. That's good money.
It is
easy money.
So now we've acquired the deal. We've contracted it. We've got our funding in place through an asset-based lender. We close. Now you've got the deal. So when you closed, you're saying you closed on it in about mid-October?
Yeah, I think it was October, maybe 10th or the 10th. I don't know exact date. I don't have it. It's somewhere. I just don't have it.
So roughly we're looking at about 6 months, and now it's on the market. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was listed day before yesterday. Our friend Tim.
Tim's got the listing?
Tim has the listing, yeah. Tim.
And so if I know Tim well enough, Tim's probably already got you an offer on it.
He does, as a matter of fact. He's got an offer in, and at $10,000 over the asking price.
$10,000 over the asking price.
$10,100 over asking.
Oh, let's not leave out the 100.
Yeah, let's not leave out the 100.
So what is the let's say you went with this offer and you didn't get another one that was more. What would your estimated profits on this deal be?
Now again, I got a split but I'm a gross profit, is right either just a little bit over 50 or just under 50 on this.
So call it 50.
We'll call it 50.
Okay, so your estimated profits on this deal is about $50,000.
That's correct. If it sells for what it's set to sell for, less realtor fees and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Right. And you've already taken out closing fees and all that to estimate 50, right?
Yes, the closing costs and commissions for the realtors. Yes.
Gotcha. And that 50 doesn't include like your rehab cost or any of that.
No, it does. Yeah.
It does.
Yes.
Okay, so your rehab cost is inside the 50?
Well, the 50 would be before IRS gets their grubby hands on it.
Okay, let me just be clear so that we get on net here. So you've got you got your resale price minus your closing fees, minus your real estate commissions, minus your taxes, insurance, all that when you sell it. Okay. Right. Minus out your rehab costs, minus out any lender fees, minus out your purchase price, you're left with
About 50,000. Yes.
Okay, so that's what we were just talking different. I got you. Okay, so it is net 50 estimated. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty daggum good deal, man. I don't know why you would have wholesaled that one.
Well, I'll tell you why, and it was very simple. Remember the market 6 months ago, Zach.
Oh, it was.
When I was doing comps 6 months ago on this house, I was maybe going to get 150. Or maybe 160 if I was very fortunate. There's been some explosive, in the last just a couple of months. And when Tim, and this is why, sometimes, hiring a realtor is the better way to go, because he got on comps and there was some pending sales at well over $100 a square foot in this neighborhood, very similar houses. And I said, well, heck with 150 or 160, let's push the envelope a little bit. And he listed at 179.9, and we've had it's been he did a virtual video walkthrough. And I tell you, I had an offer right out of the gate, and then this one came in this morning, $190,000.
You know what? He did the same thing with me, man. I had a property out in Hazel Green that I had remodeled and got it on the market, and I was going to list it for like 169. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I was still going to make good money at 169. And then he came back to me and said, Zach, I think we can get 190 for this.
Yeah. Well,
and I was like, I said, go ahead and try. And lo and behold, he came back with an offer for 190.
Well, that's, he told me 179.9, and I got one for 10,000 over that. And I've paid some closing out of that, but still.
Yeah. That's what they do, man. When you get a good realtor,
more than I thought, at least 30,000 over.
And I think that's a definition of when you have a good realtor that understands the market and their buyers, they can get things done much different. So, well, man, 50 grand on a deal, and that's a nice house, man.
It's a beautiful house.
How much was the rehab on that thing?
The rehab was right at roughly about 40. Maybe a little bit more than I'd say 43, all in at 43,000 on the rehab. Okay. And then we did, and I've got some other pictures I can show if you may pop those up on the screen behind me.
Well, I wish we had that kind of time. I got about 10 more minutes with you here, but I'm going to. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, I was going to say, I want to ask you one question, then we're going to get into what went right and what went wrong. But if we was to look at your business model right now, could you pin down the top 3 things where you're saying these are my best lead sources right now?
Sure. I would say, I still partner with Peter. That I won't say it's one of my best, but it does provide some deals. And that's outbound calling. That's outbound calling. Okay. I do a lot of, not as much as direct mail as maybe some people think, but I do hundreds. I'd say hundreds. I'm somewhere, probably about 1,500 a month in direct mail, which I need to be spending more on that. But and I spend a lot on pre-foreclosures and 30, 60, 90 day late. So those are all inside your direct mail lead source, right? Yes. So you got outbound calling with Peter. You've got your direct mail lead source. Right. What's a third one? Well, believe it, and I've kind of backed off on it. I'm going to start it up again. I still believe in bandit signs because they do work. You just got to be a little more diligent with those, and the main thing is be consistent. But I would say I get a lot of referrals now. Yeah. I do. So well, and I tell people that I'm like, look, when you're in this game long enough and you're networking enough in your market, over time, that's what happens. You know, that's where I think I've been fortunate being here for 11 years is I get a ton of referral stuff, right? And so and that's good. You're starting to get that too, man. Well, and usually the referrals are typically, for the most part, they're already warm, very warm leads. Yeah. And so, you're dealing with someone that knows that person oftentimes, or the seller, and you already have kind of an in, so to speak. So usually the first conversation you have with the seller usually goes pretty smoothly because, you have a warm lead. Exactly. It's a warm lead. And
Well, then let's dig a little bit on this other side of things. So the deal from Surface looks like, man, anybody would want to do that deal, right, man? For 6 months, $50,000, like that's awesome. But as you and I both know, all deals are not smooth.
No, they're not. They never are.
Let's talk about the first question is what was something that went wrong in that deal? Not like wrong and it killed the deal, but what was something that, because obviously it was a good deal, but what was something that you look back now and you say, man, if we would have done this, or this different, we would have done this better?
Yeah. I think if I had it, if I should have, could have, would have, something went wrong, I guess, was I should have had I should have done a better job of getting a better scope of work on the property.
From your contractor?
Pardon? Yeah. And so I think that would have helped tremendously. And just...
So let's talk on that for a minute, because some people may not understand what we're saying here. So you brought a contractor in, the contractor, like most contractors, oh yeah, I'll do all this. I got this. Oh, this is what I do. This is what I do. It'll look good when I'm done. It'll look good. But when you say a scope of work, what you mean is you're saying that you should have got more of a detailed layout of what they were going to and not going to do. Is that what you mean?
That's correct. Yeah, exactly. And there were some things specifically that they did that I didn't want them to do. And that was probably more than wanted them to do something. They didn't do it. It was they did some painting on it and some things that I really didn't want done that shouldn't have been done, but they did anyway. But
well, and we talk about it all the time. Like not having a detailed scope of work leads to also work change orders where they're coming in and saying, "Oh, well, that wasn't part of my bid. Well, that wasn't part of my bid. Oh, you want that done now?" And did any of that kind of stuff happen?
Not really. I mean, we've been pretty, as far as the budget goes, we were pretty, the biggest thing that happened on this is it was, so it's supposed to have been completed at the end of December. And so I would say the biggest thing is, it didn't get completed till about 3 weeks ago. Is the delay in getting the work done, and that.
And what do you think caused that? I mean, because I'm sitting here thinking a $40,000 remodel should not take 6 months.
No, it shouldn't. And I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna run down the contractor here. I'm not. I have my phone off.
And that's okay. I mean, none of us know the contractor. I mean, we're just speaking logic right now. Like it shouldn't take 6 months.
Honestly, is he has too many other projects going. Yep. Too many other projects, and just was running from one to the next, and he does a lot of new build projects now, and that is kind of took a front seat to a lot of things, and I think that was the biggest issue was just the new builds took a front seat. And some rehabs became, second, third tier.
Yeah, and, I mean, I just walked through, I just had some coaching students of mine go through this. We were on a project. It was quoted to be done in 6 weeks. It was a $20-something thousand remodel. And about 4 weeks into it, they had come to me and said, look, here's where we are. And I said, there's no way they're going to be done in 6 weeks. Like, it's just impossible. Like, there's too much, and I would not give them another draw. I wouldn't pay them a single dollar until they catch up. And so they had to go back, and they kept saying, oh, no, we'll get it done. We'll get it done. We'll get it done. Well, then on week 5, they were nowhere close. And I just flat said to them, I said, look, you can either hang in here with this contractor and push them and push them and push them. This thing will drag out 3 months. I said, or you just fire them now and get another contractor in here. Right. Well, they were good enough to listen. I mean, when that contractor, when they started putting the foot down on that contractor to get them to come back and finish, and told them, look, we're not paying you another dollar. If you're not done to this point about Friday, then you're out of this deal. And the contractor ended up just not returning their phone calls. And so they fired them and brought another one in and wrapped it up in about 10 days and got it on the market. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes, it goes back to that rule of thumb, right? It's, fire them fast, hire them slow. But in your case, I actually know the contractor, and he was not in the position that he was running all these new constructions, I think 6 months ago. I think that all started, about 4 or 5 months ago with him?
Well, no, he's been doing them probably started last spring, summer.
But I mean, I know somebody else that was doing a job with him, and they were saying the same thing. Like, he got busier and busier with new construction. So,
right, and I think that, I guess that's probably part of it. I don't know the entire reason that it took.
But let me ask you on just a straight up personal question.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you hold on to him when he was dragging your job out?
Well, that's a good question, and I shouldn't have. I wasn't.
Was it more emotional? Like you knew him, you were like, I don't want to, ruin the relationship.
And the work that's been done was not. There's no perfect rehab job. That. There's never a perfect rehab. But overall, if you can see the picture,
it does good work.
The house was done well, and if you sometimes changing horses is a good idea. Sometimes it's not, and at least I knew that any job he's done for me, he's always finished it. He's always finished it. It may not be on the time frame, but he always finishes it. So the margin I had on this house when I bought it, and that's part of the game. If you pay too much for a house, you can't unbuy the house. You cannot unbuy one. So I knew I still had plenty of margin. My percentages weren't too bad on as far as my fees on what I'm paying for the money. So I'd rather go ahead and finish this out and get it done and I probably should have,
So Bill, let me ask you this: did you have an independent contractor agreement with him?
I do. Mm-hmm.
And inside your agreement, does it have a stipulation of when the job will be complete?
It does.
And inside that agreement, do you have a per day cost that if they go over?
I do.
And that didn't bother him? He just went ahead and went over it?
Well, he's going to owe me some money, and probably is the issue. So,
gotcha. All right. Well, look, I don't want to beat that into the ground too much. I mean, I understand things happen, but you still made money. It still worked out. I mean, at the end of the day, we learn from every deal. So tell me one thing that went absolutely right on this thing.
Well, I would say the thing that went right would be I don't know how to what would be the best thing that went right with the deal. I would say acquiring it and getting it under contract and the price and is that I would have to say that was the best thing about this deal is buying it, is being able to get it at the price I bought it at and get it as quickly as I got it and close on as quickly as I got it.
Well, I was about to say, it sounds like another one was getting the right agent on the house to sell it.
Well, and you know what? And I need to give Tim the kudos on that. You're right. Because I highly considered selling, trying to sell it myself, which I've done and been successful doing that. But, I've known Tim a while now and we talked about it and he said, well, let me go look at it. And so he did. And when, that was, I would say that is getting a price of $25,000 or $30,000 over what I expected. That's pretty right. So let's do that. But that was probably the best. That's going to be the best. Haven't got the money yet.
I understand. It's all about right now seeing how many offers come in. But you're getting offers, and that's what matters.
Absolutely.
So, this is really a good deal. I mean, I don't care how many times you spin it and flip it. Even if it did take you 6 months, most people aren't making a $50,000 profit on a flip right now. So
right.
I think that's awesome. So all right, man. So let's forecast your future. What's your goals over the next 12 months?
First of all, I really need to buy. I need to buy in the next, before the end of this year is out, I need to buy between 15 and 20 more houses and either to wholesale flip or do more buy and holds. I'm really looking at multifamily a lot more than I used to. And I think, we've talked about this, I think in a few months, think in the next few months, we're going to see a lot of multifamily prices drop.
Oh, 100%.
And so I'm trying to keep my powder dry, get ready to try to pick some of those up, because one of the areas that I'm lacking in is residual income and mailbox money. And that's where I really want to build that portfolio up, where I've got, not that I'm planning on retiring anytime soon, but
you just want the passive income.
Sure. I mean,
there's nothing wrong with earned income. I know a lot of people harp on it, but my belief is you can go flip and rehab and take those profits and then go buy more passive income with it,
Sure.
And so I think it's a work in process. So your 12 months goal is 15 to 20 more houses and to lean more into some cash flow property holdings.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Well, and I think that if you just hang tight a little bit, you're going to see prices come down, because look, the commercial industry is getting hit hard right now. Lenders are requiring 20 to 30% down on these buildings, and they're requiring 12 months of reserves on a lot of these buildings to be sitting in a bank account.
Wow. And that's on commercial property.
That's on these like apartment buildings, commercial, big stuff, right? And so that's going to hurt that industry, because now what happens is the cash on cash return, the overall ROI goes way down when you got that much money out of pocket and that much money sitting in a reserve account that you can't touch. So the sellers are either going to have to come down on their prices, or they're going to have to start doing some seller financing on the backside. So I think it's just a waiting game right now on that. So obviously one of my questions is always how you see the current market. Everybody's kind of nervous right now, not sure when people will watch this video, but we're kind of right in the middle of that whole COVID-19, as my buddy Wyatt says, the Rona is going around.
I call it my Sharona.
the Rona is going around. But, on our side, we're seeing real estate moving like normal. And so what about you? What do you see on your side?
Well, as far as what's the future, I mean, you're talking.
No, I'm talking right now.
Right now. I mean, it seems that, and this house, what was under contract for a day and a half, and it's already got, the offer on it. And this is in Decatur, so this is not even Huntsville. But, but I see, as far as market right now, it's still good. Right now, residential prices are holding stable. They seem to be. Now that could change dramatically with all this forbearance stuff and all these foreclosures that, are going to be coming.
That's a tsunami about to hit in about 90 to 120 days.
Come this fall, late summer, fall, we'll see a lot of that happening, I believe. But right now, in Huntsville, Alabama, Madison County, I think the market's stable, at least.
Awesome.
At least for the next 30 days.
I love it. All right, man. So, Bill, what's the best advice you could give a new person that's watching this?
I would make one word. I'd say one word, and that is commitment. Commitment. And once you decide this is what you want to do, you have to commit to it. It cannot be something you're just going to, I'm going to play around with this a little bit here and there. Yes, you can make money on a part-time basis, but you got to commit to the process and commit to not quitting. Just commit to not quitting, really, and make you don't have to think about it every single minute of every single day, but you do have to commit to it. And if this is really something you want to do for the rest of your life, commit and don't quit and get education, all that good stuff. And it will be, you can be successful if you just stick with it and learn from folks like you, because I can tell you, I've learned, I don't know how many gold nuggets I've gotten from you and coming to your meetings in the RIA, and you personally and the coaching. So,
man, you gave me a gold nugget today. So you gave one back to me, man.
Well, we steal ideas from everybody. We didn't come up with most of this stuff,
No, Lord, no, we didn't come up with this. We just fine tune it to what works for us.
I read books and I stole it from people. That's
Listen, a friend of mine wrote a book, and it's a great book. It's called Copy Your Way to Success.
Yeah.
And he's in the book, he says, like, look, nobody invented everything, right? Like most of all the stuff we do, people have already been doing. We're just following their paths and fine tuning it to fit us and our lifestyle. And so I thought it was a great book. All right, man. Well, look, you've been a great interviewee.
Well, thank you. You've been an interviewer.
But here, I got some hot fire questions for you. We're going to end on the hot fire questions.
All right.
All right, here we go, man. You ready? What's the best place you ever been on vacation?
Best place I've ever been on vacation, Acapulco, Mexico.
Oh, I love it. What was your very first automobile?
1965 powder blue 4-door Plymouth Valiant, the ugliest car.
Oh boy, you were rolling and stuff.
I'm telling you, the ugliest car on the road, but indestructible vehicle, pretty much.
That's so true. They're like a tank.
Yes, the slant six could destroy that engine.
Look, I used to tell people I drove my grandmother's big, I don't even know what it was, just super long car. It was like a tank. Yeah. And I used to say, look, I don't park this thing, I dock it.
Well, I wasn't that big. It was kind of small for a mid-sized car at the time, but you could run into a tree and a little dent. Just kept.
They don't make them like that anymore, though.
No, they don't. They don't. But
all right, man. Favorite season or holiday?
Favorite season? It had to be this time of year. It's spring. I love spring.
I love it too. My allergies don't like it, but I love it. What's your best podcast you've listened to besides mine, but like just out there? Like, what's a good podcast that you listen to?
I watched a really good one the other day with Lance. That's one I just watched. Lance Edwards. I just watched one with him.
Oh yeah, Small Apartments.
Yeah, but there was another one right before that, and shoot, what was that guy's name? And it was an all-day podcast. It was like an all-day, like 8 to 5 or something. It was crazy.
Oh, geez.
And I know I wasn't in front of it the whole time, but
was it Flip Talk, Don Costa?
No,
he did one the other day like that.
I'll have to.
That's okay, man. I'm just curious.
Great job on one the other day.
When you get the chance, what's your favorite food to eat?
I would have to say my favorite food to eat is it's changed so many times, but I would have to say I got it's where, and that is a perfectly cooked ribeye from Char, the local steakhouse here in Huntsville. I don't know if you've eaten there yet, but if you haven't eaten there yet, you got to have your steak. It's incredible.
Awesome. All right, man. Are you an early riser or are you a sleep in guy?
Well, I want to get to where I can sleep till about 1:30 noon, and that's my goal. So if I can create enough passive income, I can get up about.
I don't see you doing that, man. I gotta get up and get going.
I'm not an early riser. I don't know. I don't know if it's.
What's your normal wake up time then?
Somewhere between, I would say 7 and 8.
Okay, well, some people that would be early.
Yeah, but I would say, probably closer to 8 and 7. But and it's just, some people. I know you're an early riser, and I don't think you ever sleep. I think
that's like
that's like you're a robot.
But, I don't know why, man. I'll stay up till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, but I get up at 5:30, 6 every morning.
Well, I used to do that, and I could get up that early and burn that oil on both ends, but I can't do it anymore.
I've got to stop. Let's just be honest. I mean, I was talking to my doctor the other day, and he was like, Zack, you've got to sleep. He's like, your brain needs rest.
Yes, your body needs rest. And,
So I got, all right, man, what's your favorite book you've read in the last year or 2 years?
Right here. The E-Myth. I don't know if you can spell.
The E-Myth.
The E-Myth book. Real estate investor. So actually, I just reread that one. I'm almost done with it. I read it a couple of years ago.
That's pretty cool that you pulled that book right out of that yard.
I know. It was laying right here in the front yard.
Just pulled it right out of the grass, man.
Well, hey, the house is right here. We'll go inside. We'll go right in. No.
All right, man. We'll end on this. What's your favorite movie of all time?
The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, great one.
Yeah.
Man, that's a classic.
I've probably seen that movie, I don't know, 2 dozen.
Yeah, that's a classic, man.
Love it. I don't know why I like it so much, but it's a good movie. Great movie.
Oh, well, Bill, look, man, I appreciate you being on today, sharing all the nuts and bolts and the ins and the outs of your deal. I'm sure it's going to help somebody out there that's watching. But let's say somebody finds a deal up in northern Alabama, mid Alabama, South Alabama, and they want to get it over to you. Where would they go?
They would go to my website or my email. My website is probably the best thing to do, and that's bill@besthomes1.com. Bill@besthomes1.
So that's your email. What's your website?
Also is www.besthomes1.com, and that is with a number 1, BESTHOMES with a numeral 1.com.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Hey, guys, listen, Bill's the real deal out there. I've watched him rise up. I've watched him come in asking 1,001 questions, and now he's out there doing everything on his own and using his team and plugging in, and he's the real deal, and that's why we have him on here, doing real deals with real investors. That's what the Coffee with Closers show is all about, and if you get any value out of this, share it with somebody else. Give it a thumbs up. Remember to hit the subscribe button and click that little bell so you can get notified every time we bring another real investor on this call to talk about real deals in a real market. Bill, thanks again for being here, my friend.
You too, Zach. Thank you for having me.
So next time, you can sit in your living room. You don't have to put a chair up in front of that in your house, okay?
I'll do that. All right.
Hey, guys, you heard it here from the Coffee with Closer. I'm Zack Attack, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye now.